Hi, Greg. Welcome to the our search engine land celebrating 20 years in the industry interview. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I cannot believe it's already been 20 years. Time flies.
Yeah. Do you feel old?
No, I don't actually. I feel young. I've got this little health band on. It says I'm
Nice.
like still 38.3-ish. I feel good.
Amazing. Amazing. I love to hear it. Um, yeah, I didn't know if you were the one that wanted to say this, but like I'm gonna be cheeky and steal your limelight here. But like before we started recording, Greg was like, "How many articles have I written for Search Engine Land?" And I was like, before I even search, I was like, "Oh, thousands, thousands." And I
No,
searched. It's like, how many have you written? How many did we say?
I think it's like 227,
227. Nice
but
number. Yeah.
proud to be able to contribute 227 articles. I take a long time to write. I've never been a great writer, and stepped up, and Search Engine Land really helped. So I think that's pretty cool.
You downplay yourself all the time, Greg. You need to stop doing that. Yeah, Greg has been one of those who, made me actually think that community and paid search can be fun. Like, knowing other paid search folks can be like an enjoyable thing and talking about all the metrics and everything kind of stuff. So yeah, no, Greg, you're definitely one of those people that it's such a joy right now. It's such a privilege for me to like be interviewing you and, getting the story of your career in in our industry, what you remember from what was happening 20 years ago. I wasn't in it 20 years ago for sure. Were you in it 20 years ago?
100%.
Yeah, you were probably in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Of course, that's why we're interviewing. Of course, you're in it for 20 years. So tell me, where were you in your career when you like first discovered the whole SEO PPC world?
So first in my career, I had this really ratty job at an ad agency, and then I didn't like it. It was all still kind of like print, and I had moved over to a kind of technology like company that was pretty rare at the time. I would say like pretty new, I guess, and it was kind of Wild West, and that was 2004, 2005 ish, and I was basically doing like sales support. Right. And I would help go out, and there would be these salespeople that would just sell like the world and all these huge dreams to people. But then we couldn't like ever make any of this stuff happen because these salespeople had no idea. So I'd go out there and I'd be like, well, actually, this is how things work and this and that. And then, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, we're really don't just want a website. We want a website because we have goals and objectives and we need things to work. And at the time, we had one digital marketer at the company, and I sort of just like shadowed him, and I would just start taking some work and kind of learning it on the side, just working my job plus like this other job. And at the time, it was a lot of like Overture, like Yahoo. That was
Yeah.
the platform. And I would just learn that. And I started on the PPC side, and then kind of took a bunch of roles from there, but basically got pretty good at it and realized this made things easier to sell and you could do a better job. And then I just found that I loved it and I was good at it. And like, I had all the time in the world, and I would just, make things happen. So it was really cool. It was back like when you had Ad Center, remember like Google AdWords coming out and like, oh, this is huge. But it was kind of just weaseled my way in, I would say. And then I got really good, so good that he got fired, and then I took the job.
What did you do, Greg?
It might have been like one of those like mutual things, but who knows?
Yeah, yeah. So did SEO ever play a part at the beginning? Because I feel like I've spoken to several of the folks on this, and it's like, oh, at the beginning, I kind of dabbled in SEO, but paid search I preferred. Was there any like you looked at SEO and you're like, yeah, no, paid search is for me, or was that not even in play at the any time?
No, I was like a full time SEO. I would pay $10,000 for a link on w3c.org. I would have, so basically I had worked at this agency and then sort of moved to a different city, worked in-house doing mainly SEO, did a little bit of PPC, but I would just tell them every day, you don't have enough budget. This doesn't even make sense to hire somebody. You're not even doing that. You need to fire me. And they're like, don't ever say that. And I'm like, well, I'm just telling you the truth. And then I ended up moving into another company where I sort of had to do both, right? So I had a budget of like $3 million that I had to spend on PPC, but then was sort of like, oh, and you also have to rank for like a pretty aggressive term like student loans, which is aggressive, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
figured it out, got to position 4, I think was the highest I could get there. But yeah, I would kind of, in-house, especially, back in, that was about 2006, 2007-ish. Um, yeah, it was sort of doing both. And again, I just love it. And it's sort of my passion, and was doing all sorts of crazy stuff to be able to rank, not all white hat, but I had the okay to do all that.
Yeah.
And it was only our one site, and I was doing
Yeah.
some wild stuff with like Brent Satoris, Neil Patel, Chris Winfield, all those folks at the time.
Wow. Yeah.
Some pretty crazy stuff.
Wow, amazing. And like over the years, and I think this is even something that you've touched on some of the other chats that we've had in terms of whether it's easier or harder now. Some people are like, oh yeah, with automation and AI, it's so easy to just run a campaign or to rank for something. And back then, I imagine it would have been easy because, or maybe easier. I don't want to downplay the work that you put in. I'm sure you did a lot of hard work, but at the beginning, I felt with paid search, it was like, oh, traffic. As long as you had who had the most money, had the highest position. Did you find it hard to get into that, higher ranking? And is it harder or easier now?
I would say that just candidly, like we have different clientele. Like we're more into e-commerce now, where I wasn't for the first part of my career, and that's sort of like our biggest clients now. I would say
Sure.
we still do have lead gen clients, still in similar spaces and things like that. I would say it was easier, just because you could really tell if you were good at what you did. There was a huge chasm between those that weren't good, right? And now Google's trying to, you don't have this, you can't really set what headlines you want unless you pin everything. In the past, you could be very, very precise, and it was harder, I would say, like to do that. And so, yeah, it's just different. And then kind of the way that things like evolve, like we take on more like complex, sort of like enterprisey type clients, and everybody has different like business objectives, and it's just different, I would say. But if you were to say the same client today versus in the past, yeah, if you're good, it was easier. It was very easy back in the
Yeah.
day. And now, you just have more competition, and Google's trying to really make a lot more money and make it, make people that are bad better, which is good for Google, right? Like that's what they should be doing. But it does also make it like, hey, there's more competition. People are bidding on my brand without knowing it, use it because of PMAX or AMAX and things like that. So it's just different. But I would say, yeah, I would go easier in the past,
Okay. All
but
right.
more work though.
Yeah, 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 of course. And what was your first like, holy crap, this works kind of moment? Do you remember like, or like, yeah.
I mean, we would have like a local client that would, and this is probably like 2005, and they were just a local like costume shop, and we had at the time built them a website, and we had run a lot of ads for them, and their sales just like took off, and it was like they
Mm,
were able to compete. I still think they compete a little bit like on the national level, but it was really cool to be like, hey, you're this like you have one store in Rochester, New York, and I just remember seeing some of the numbers and being like, man, you could just spend so much. You could get so much back in just
yeah,
revenue, and it was really cool to be like, hey, if you have somebody that's good, you have somebody that is like cares about your money, and is trying to like do the best for you. It was awesome just to see, and that's sort of like when I was hooked. Is like, you know, this is the future.
yeah,
This is insane just to be able to see like a mom and pop go out there and just really like change their business.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, taking things to our beloved search engine land, who we're really about to, is the reason why we're on this conversation at the moment. Like, let's talk about like the search engine land era. What was the search industry like when search engine land was launched? You remember like 2006 kind of time?
Yeah. So I vividly remember this.
Okay,
So
amazing.
I had gone to I think one SES conference. I think SES Chicago, I believe,
Okay.
at the time, and there weren't like really podcasts or anything like that, but there was Webmaster Radio was a thing, and I would just sit there all day long in my office, just listening to Webmaster Radio, trying to get better. It was Darren Bevan, and I forget the other person's name off the top of my head, and I would just sit there and try to get better because it was just me. I was the department. I didn't have any way of like, there was search. There's some other sites out there, and I
Yeah.
followed Danny and everything like that. And then I remember it was like huge news. I think it might have been SES San Jose. It might have been SES Chicago when it was announced. But it was like huge news that Danny had came out and said that he's leaving Search Engine Watch and starting his own site, Search Engine Land. And it was just like I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy because it's like I'm like a shy, nervous person, like in general. That's a fact. And then like B, I'm like I just would like listen to these people and be like, oh my, like this is how I'm trying to get better. This is what I'm doing. And then like, oh, there's gonna be this all new thing,
Yeah.
and like wow. And then it was Search Engine Land, and then like it was announced SMX Advanced after that. That was another one. That was like my first SMX. I went to the first one, which was awesome out in Seattle. But yeah, I just remember sitting there on Webmaster Radio, like getting the scoop live, and I was like, it was like must watch TV. It must be like a finale of a TV show for some people.
Oh wow. Yeah, I caught like was it something that there was always something going on like 24/7? I mean like is it like 24/7 people giving tips? What's what I don't understand how a paid search
Yeah.
or a digital marketing radio network would work.
So it was one of those things where I would say like like edge of the web, right? It's really really well produced, and they cover all these this news now, and it's like the best production. And it seemed like Darren or somebody there had some radio background. Everything was in a world of click. Everything was like so sensational. It was like a radio. I don't know. Like you can still probably go back and find some of them. But yeah, there were a lot of repeats on. Like there'd be like just run stuff. And then, Todd Friesen and Oilman had a show with Greg Bozer, and I'd just be like, wait for this thing to come out. Greg Nyland had a show. I would just listen to all these shows and just try to get better because it's the only way I could. And like, you could read articles, but then when I found that when people were talking, they'd say more. And back in the day, it really mattered a lot more, and I would just like tune in. So yeah, it was crazy that's how I learned about it.
Amazing. And what do you think was the biggest misconception about how PPC worked in 2006, 2008, in those early years?
Um, the big early years misconception. I don't even remember what the conceptions are, but I would
Yeah.
just go out and say that like um it was just a different world, right? Like you couldn't bid on brand. Just couldn't do any of that. Um One thing that really worked well for us back in the day is we got so granular with our testing, right? And it's really hard now with just the way that ads work and the dynamicness of them all. But we would test routinely and insanely with like I remember at one time like Shoe Money's like you have to have this triangle where you put a keyword here, keyword here, keyword here, and we test everything. And then for us, like being able to test everything and then send people to super specific landing pages because exact match was exact. Like you could actually match whatever you wanted, and we would just set up the most precise landing pages. We would test like hey, there's going to be an image of a check in your mailbox. Let's change the border from orange to green, and we would just like test so specifically based off of like a lot more exact match. So I'd say like the biggest misconception was the SEO was better. Honestly, I think,
Mm, mm.
and to a point, yes, but like it PPC still worked and worked phenomenally, like phenomenally well. But I think at least back in the day, people really cared more about SEO and thought that PPC was sort of an afterthought.
Surprised to hear that because I feel like because I'm also one of those where right at the beginning I did like a 6 month SEO stint, and it was literally I was a salesperson. It was like, hi, can you put a link of my client on your website, and we had to negotiate the price. And I was like, this is boring. I was like, does this really work? And then I got an interview for paid search role, and then when I started seeing that, oh my god, you could write an ad and in 2 minutes you see the ad right at the top position, that kind of stuff. And then that's really what clients want. Even with for SEO these days, it's literally like, when can we get to that first page as soon as possible? And that's what paid search always gave. So actually I am surprised that. there was a misconception that SEO works. But from the beginning, I was always like, what are SEO people doing? But I see a lot more of it now, especially with all the conferences and events. I'm like, I know what SEOs are doing. It's hard work, but I'm literally like, in the beginning, it was like, really? SEO?
Yeah, and
Interesting.
I think a lot of it was ads look like ads. Back in the
Yeah.
day, all ads look like ads, and
Yeah.
I can tell you a dozen times I've heard people say, "Who clicks on these?" And that's like the thing. And now you don't know what on earth an ad is versus what
No.
organic is. That change that came out in October from just the text search ads. I mean that blends organic and PPC together, and then you got
Yeah.
shopping, and it's like you have product right in your face. Back in the day, ads were very much ads, and I think that probably played into it.
That is so true. Yeah, bring back the whole industry was shook when we they moved ads from like what the right hand side panel, bringing it to the top. Like, yeah, all the SEOs like cried bloody murder during that time. So yeah, so you got really excited moving from listening, to like Webmaster Radio and to hearing Danny talk about, bringing engine land up. So you're following all the articles. Do you remember any like headlines that really stuck out to you at the beginning that really maybe like even made you change any strategies that you were working on?
I mean, yeah, there was a lot. Anything Danny wrote back in the day was just like phenomenal, And then I think we like some of the peak, at least like peak SEO news and peak like must read was Panda and Penguin, or even when it came out, it was Farmer for Panda. But that was really really interesting. I know that he had just gone so deep. Every one of his like really long articles was just phenomenal. And then once you like hear Danny speak in person, you just read his writing, and it's just you hear him up there ranting and be like, well, should we really do this? But yeah, that's what they have to say. They have to say make, you know what I mean? And so like I would say like all of those were
Yeah.
like some of the things that were like that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just Danny's articles, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Danny
Amazing.
Sullivan.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got
So,
some Danny's.
yeah, there's several Dannys. There's like Danny Good with my manager. That's not, yeah, there's Danny Sullivan. Yeah, moved on from Search Engine Land. What did Search Engine Land do you feel get right at the beginning before all the other publishers, came in?
The thing that they got right, and I think has really impacted me, was they didn't take everything. I mean, they were very seriously, and like journalistic integrity was huge, right? Like that's number one. But I still remember, like again, Search Engine Land came out, and I was just like consuming the content, and I think something that was good is like, especially early, there was like how do you differentiate yourself from these other ones? And I think Danny tried some things that missed, but like still like really resonated with me. Like there was something when it launched, I vividly remember, called Searcherazi, where it was like, yeah, you have to Google it. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But it's like paparazzi, but
Oh my
for
God, of
search.
course.
And
Okay.
so it would be like a weekly, it ended pretty quick. I assume people got mad. Um, but it was like, it was about like insider information about people in search and where people are going and what people were doing, kind of thing. It was like paparazzi for the search industry. And
Yeah.
again, it might have only made it a month, but to me it's like, this is so cool. You can do whatever you want. Like that's crazy. You know what I mean? And I think again, to me it's like, as somebody that's got a podcast that is off the rails and things like that, it's like, yeah, you can do what you want, and things don't always have to be us. You don't have to just like slodge through the day every day. It's like you can have fun, you can try different things. Not everything is going to work. And I thought that was the cool thing. And even Danny's writing is like, it wasn't like a traditional reporter. And if you ever talk to Danny, he started in reporting. They had like assigned him off to like go report on a football game, and he didn't know what the line of scrimmage was or something, you know what I mean? But he's like a traditional journalist. And I think like, to me, like just having that authenticity,
Yeah.
especially like today in a world of AI, it's like, like being real, being genuine. It's like, that was something that really stuck out to me.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. He was a very genuine Right. I feel like the whole like search paparazzi. We should bring that back, especially with the whole world of influencers. So like top influencers, what are the influencers doing? That is how it should be.
I don't know. Like, I think it got shut down pretty quick, but I just remember being like, "That's crazy." And then
Oh my
when
God.
yeah, obviously Barry Schwartz was a huge part of it, and there was another thing that I listened to every single day was a daily search cap. It was like 10-minute roundup of the news, and Danny was hysterical.
Okay.
He would just go off and be like, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I was like, oh my God, this is like crazy. Cause it's like a lot of times, at least with me, especially early in my career, it was just me. You know what I mean? And I thought
Yeah.
like, hey, this is like pretty cool to be able to almost be like at the water cooler with people. And Barry Schwartz
Yeah.
was on a lot.
Yeah.
Just a lot of people within the industry would jump on and host, but Danny would just go off and be himself. And then about I don't even know, like a year and a half ago, Barry Schwartz and Morty and Crystal at the time had done something similar, and I shot Barry a message, and I'm like, Barry, this show you're doing is cool. You should keep this up. This is good. It reminds me of like the daily search caps that you used to do every day with Danny. And Barry's response was, "Oh, I don't remember even doing that." And then he said, "Do you want to be on the show?" And I'm like, that was not what I was asking. I was trying to just say, like, keep it up because I want to be able to like listen to like daily stuff. And then ended up now we're on the show with you. I'm on the show with you, Barry.
Oh, it's fantastic. Like when you were saying that, when you started saying like, yeah, this show, like 10 minutes recap, I was like, wait, that's
Yeah,
it's
no,
new.
it
That's
was
that's
the
what we do now.
it was the daily search cap. I would listen every single day. I wouldn't miss a show. And it was again, I don't know if that was like I think it was Search Engine Land branded because it had like a gear in the
Okay.
logo, but that was like a podcast.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think that went on for like a year and a half or so. And you can still find episodes. And the episodes are still hilarious because it's just Danny going off and talking.
Yeah.
And then Barry would be like, yeah. Like, yeah, great.
Yeah, Barry does not rant. Barry just says his
No,
opinion and it's like
no. I wish I had my opinions were less me and more maybe in the middle of me and Barry.
Oh, yeah, I think you do bring the Danny Sullivan vibe to our I love a good Greg rant. When you go off on something that you're
Yeah.
passionate about, it's literally like, okay, Simba, you're not stopping here. It's
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, definitely. Doing that show. Um, so now going on to like, talking about events, things that changed, kind of turning points in our industry, like in terms of paid search. What's a moment that you remember that changed like PPC forever, like changed how we do paid search that you feel like there was a before and after kind of?
Yeah. I actually covered this. And
Okay.
I wrote the article on Search Engine Land.
All right, go
I
check it out,
have it
girl.
up in front of me. It's called Farewell Pure Exact Match.
Oh,
AdWords will
yes.
still require all campaigns to use close variants. And I think either that or expanded text ads, one of those two. I think for a long time it was like you could really just put in a lot of work and be the absolute best at something. Looking at negative, mine like, and you could dial everything in like perfectly well, and then at that point you kind of saw like the automation is here, right? And that's where like that was 2014, and there's
Yeah.
still people fighting this, and at least to me, when you have the name of a match type being an exact match, and it doesn't exactly match, it's like this is
Yeah.
huge, right? So. I do think it has helped many people in a way, as I've said, but I think it's helped a lot of those people that might not be taking the time, might not have the time, right? It might not be as good.
Yeah.
But to me, that was a huge shift because you really kind of saw like, hey, automation is here and things aren't, exact. Sorry to use the pun, like what you want them to be.
Yeah.
And like it was just, I think, the biggest shift in it's been going. I mean, that was 12 years ago, and there's still people like, arguing about automation and this and that, and it's like, that's like at least for me the first thing where it's like you got to roll with the punches, and you have to figure out how to make it work in this new world. But yeah, that was a huge one for me because I hated it. I had to write it, if I remember correctly, I had to interview somebody that said it was good. Oh, Larry Kim. I had to interview Larry Kim, who was like, "Oh, I like this," and I'm like, "No, you don't." But he said I like it because he wanted publicity. I believe,
Oh
and I'm only
god.
saying that because he made fun of my pants once. I actually think he's a nice guy. He made fun of my jeans at SMX. I'm like,
How dare he? How
what?
dare he? Like
I know.
honestly.
No, but he's a very nice guy. But he would do anything for publicity. And but yeah, so I think that was it. It's just like, hey, that's the beginning of automation, and now we're here where, it's just
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Automation. Now going into like things that maybe really pissed you off or really you really enjoyed. What tactic do you feel that everyone was using that now feels ridiculous?
um it I don't know if there's anything that I would say like is ridiculous necessarily. I mean, everybody has their own way, shape, and ability to do stuff. I would say that like now broad match is good. There are some people
Okay.
that would say like broad match, and like Google would come out and say like use broad match. I cannot believe that they never renamed that, and then to tell people to push people into that, and then it's I'd say the ridiculous things are more like what at the time Google would be pushing you towards, right?
Yeah.
Like I talked to people that were on the Google Ads team, and they would make money based on quotas of like how many people they got into like maximize clicks at the
Mm,
time. And I think it's more of those things where it's like you would hear all this stuff about like, oh yeah, use maximize click. I don't want clicks. Like
yeah.
I'm not looking for clicks. I'm looking
Yeah.
for conversions. Like I don't
Yeah.
care about clicks. Like what are you talking about? I care about how much I spent versus how much I get back. So I think a lot of those things early on, and then broad match. Like you would hear people being like use broad match, and
Mm,
broad match sucked. We around the pandemic, it must have been when broad match got good, but pre-pandemic, we had written a book like or right in the pandemic, we had a little extra time. We just kind of keeping people busy, and we wrote a book and like don't ever use broad match. I use broad match in every account now. I use it in every
wow.
account. But
How do you
before then, it
use
was ridiculous.
yeah. But how do you use broad match? Because I think the what you could do using broad match is different now than back then. Because I think back then it was like broad match, but like the whole audience targeting and like, interest target, all those different ways that you could actually like put guardrails in weren't there. So yeah, you use broad match at your peril. But now it's like, yeah, test out broad match, but put the guardrails in, is what I always say. I mean, yeah. So is it a case that broad match got better or
Well, yeah, 100%,
yeah,
100%. And
yeah.
I was looking up. I know Ginny Marvin has a Ads Decoded podcast, and I think one of the first interview I think she had was somebody who was like, wow. I was looking at him like, what did he do with Google Ads? And one of his things, like claims to fame, was rethought and reinvented broad match. So in
Mm,
the past, like pre 2020, you could not use broad match, and that was
yeah.
ridiculous, right? And now, yes, you can use broad match. You need the guardrail. You need smart bidding, right?
Yeah.
And then the way you use it is you go over, you click on your search terms, then see what the terms were, and you go like this, and you just don't look at them,
Yeah.
right? You don't look at them because broad match looks at past search queries. It looks at what's on your landing page. It looks at so much more than just the terms. And really what you want to look at is how much did you spend versus how much did you get back, right? And you look at some of these terms, it might be like, this does not apply to me, but their previous search might have been something that applies. So as long as you're seeing positive returns, as long as you have positive ROAS, whatever your metrics are, like it's almost that point, like who cares? You need to have enough pride and ability to do what's right for your client or your company that you work for to be able to look at the mess of the keywords that you're showing for and be okay with it. Sure, there's no fly things like you don't want to show up for free or use if you don't sell that stuff. But for the most part, you're not doing keywords, you're doing intent. And that's why
Yeah.
when Google launched AI Max, I was just like, we've already had this in broad match.
Mm,
A little
mm.
bit at least.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of that. Lord, I'd love to dig a lot more into this, but now I do need to move on some of these search engine led specific questions kind of
Okay.
thing. So, like, what would you say, like, was the most one of the most misunderstood, like, Google or Bing feature that that was not being used well, and that people were not using well, and not the broad match. Definitely, yeah, we've talked about broad match. Something else apart from broad match.
I don't know if this is a feature, so you can tell me to give a different answer if you want. But the one thing that I used to love about Google is they were so strict on not being able to bid on a.
Mm,
They were so strict. And if you recall, like when Google came out, they're like, we're never going to have ads and everything like that. And then, they launched AdWords and came out. You could not bid on your competitors. It would just never show. You could try to put them in. It was just like an absolute no-no. And then what we would do at the time is we'd just use Microsoft and bid on competitor terms and, steal traffic. But to me, that was something, honestly, that like, it's nice to be able to do that now, but the problem is it just inflates like it inflates how much you have to spend on your own branded terms, right?
yeah.
Which I absolutely hate doing. It's not if anybody is out there and you have an agency or somebody that's like touting how much revenue you're getting from your own brand, like you got the wrong agency. So that's something that I hate, right? Like I hate spending money for people that are looking for us. And with now that change from let's say like 2007 to like now, it's honestly it's welcomed, right? It's
Yeah.
welcomed.
Yeah.
You'll set something up and you'll say like, hey, I've got a handshake agreement with somebody to not go
Yeah.
after and bid on your terms, and then you set up a PMAX account and all of a sudden you're bidding on those terms if you didn't negative them out. And I think that to me, that's one thing I really do miss. As nice as it is to be able to go and try to steal some competitors' traffic and sales and everything, it was just a nice, like, I'm like a very ethical guy. And like, I like that fact that you weren't able to do that. And it's like, no, Google is trying to serve the best results to people. And if somebody's looking for a brand, we want to serve them that brand.
Yeah.
And now it's just not the case. And it just, I think there's a lot of wasted spend that comes from that. And it's something that we're always like top of mind. How do we cut? How do we trim? How do we like solve that? Where it's a necessary evil now to spend a little bit on brand, especially if you're branding your name. We also have like some companies where we spend nothing, absolutely not a dollar on branded. And we have others where, if you have a keyword in your name, you sort of have to do that. But I would say that's something that I really miss.
Yeah. Um, forgive me. I want to go back to something you said earlier. Doesn't that conflict in a way of your advice on using broad? Because what advertisers have seen is that they bid on their brand on broad, and it's like a competitor brand that is showing. But like, if the revenue is good, if the return is good, don't you just keep it and just look at the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was a different time, right? Back
Mm,
then, in 2007, you wouldn't, like, you couldn't really show up for other people's brands.
no.
And now, like, like I'd say, whenever the new broad match launched, like 2020, 2021, I would assume, like with that, like, yeah, you could show up for branded, but at the same time, for other people's brands, let's say.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's the environment we're in now. Like I could want and hope all day long that competitors don't show up for my client's brand. But I live in reality and I have to deal with reality on reality's terms. And the terms are like, I'm going to have to kind of protect myself. And then guess what? I might go out and try to, find new customers and new sales and things like that from competitor terms.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, now going on to maybe some like personal stories that this makes me think of the podcast we did together. We're talking about mistakes. Are
Mhm.
you okay with sharing some of your biggest PPC like spend mistakes, especially?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, I had talked about that one. I guess this wasn't a me mistake, but just one that like stuck out to me to always like be careful. Um, that that one like local mom and pop shop. I had told you there was a manager above me, and at the time they were like testing things out. I think their spend for the month was 30K, and that manager had set it up to be 30K a day, which is a huge problem.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it's like
Oh,
running through.
no,
I'm like,
God.
why are we spending this amount? Like, what is going on? And it's just like completely overspent,
Yeah.
um, and like huge problem. And then they had to, there's a huge credit of services and all that. I wasn't involved in all that, but I'd say like at least me with the agency, some things I'm probably most embarrassed about is like one that just sticks out to me was that we were uploading to Bing and the export from Google. This was a long time ago, probably 20, I don't know, 16, something like that, 15, something. The export had some different ads and different information because the export came out wrong, or it might have been an auto sync it wasn't me that did it, but I was like overseeing the account. And some from one client made it over to another client and like had some spend issues, and it's like that's always the most embarrassing thing is when you like make that mistake. It wasn't anything major, and we just like just paid them the money and ate that. But like that was something where it's like realize like that auto, Google to Microsoft sync, you have to really make sure everything's dialed in, especially when you have like an MCC and you've got multiple clients in there. It was just some ads came through and some bad keywords, so we had to then go do reporting and then just pay them back for what we made a mistake on. But that's always that's like I just hate making mistakes like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this could be a very short answer. This is absolutely up to you. Was there any time that you felt like your career was over? You've done something, you're like, okay, this is gonna be end. But and then like, was anything interesting that happened after that that saved it?
Yeah, I thought my career was over in like the 2028 financial crisis because I was in the
Really?
loan space and like, we're like, oh my God, JP Morgan's about to fail and Goldman Sachs and all this, but that wasn't a me thing. So I would say like from a career over side of things, I'm pretty like I really prepare for
Yeah,
things, especially
yeah.
like back in the day. So I don't have anything too crazy, but I'd say the biggest times is more when we would, and I think this is just like the way that I like to work doesn't
Mm,
always like mesh with the way that other people like to work. Like
okay.
I look at it and it's like, hey, I'm an agency. I try to look at it like we're a fiduciary for your money.
Mm,
And so like I want to tell you what to do, like what the right recommendations are, and
yeah,
then allow you to like make those changes. And I think a lot of times that doesn't mesh well with people that have different opinions.
yeah.
So in the past, sometimes we've gone in and I was like, I don't like what they're doing. This is wrong. And
Mm,
not like that, but like, like the recommendation is to stop this and do this, and our goals are this. So I think being like a little bit too opinionated with recommendations,
yeah.
sometimes people don't like that. But if you're giving me a recommendation, I want you just to be you and say what you want.
Mm,
But overall, I don't think there was like something where thought I was like done in anything other than the fact that, I was working in a company that provided loans and there were no loans to be provided. That was like the main thing.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then your switching career came swift. And then like, how did you then, what did you move on to like straight after working for this loans company? Started your agency? Was it,
No,
oh,
no.
okay.
So at that time, I still was super shy, quiet, nothing. And I went over to an agency out of New Paltz called 1020. And I worked with Chris Winfield was in charge there. It was a great team. We had a bunch of people that were really awesome there. And that's where it's like he's like, you gotta have Facebook, you gotta have social media, you gotta like be yourself, like you gotta go talk at SMX, you just do it. And I'm just like, dude, I can't do any of this stuff.
Oh
You know what
no.
I mean? Like I can't. I didn't have a Facebook. Like I didn't have any of it, and so that was just sort of like very grateful and appreciative for it. It was a whirlwind, and I
Mm,
kind of just ran everything for them.
yeah.
But it was awesome. It was like, that's one thing where, and I try to tell. We have a lot of people that are sort of new to their careers that we bring on
Yeah.
here, like a lot of times if you're out there, like knowledge, experience, wisdom, like that should be your currency, almost more
Yes.
important than like real currency. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was great. And then he had an article, he had a column at Search Engine Land, and he had a lot on his plate, and he couldn't always do it. So I said, look, I'll pick up your columns. That's like my move, Like
Yes.
I'd be like,
Yes.
hey, that seems
Sneak it
like it's
in.
too
Sneak
tough.
it
You're running these campaigns. It seems like you don't have any time. Let me come take these campaigns over. And so he had a column, and I'm like, look, I could take your column. And then I started his column, and I would just do it. I wouldn't miss a week. I do really thoughtful things, and then they'd be like, hey, you want to write more? And I'm like, yeah, let me write more. And so it's only about 225 articles, but for me, that's a big deal.
It's definitely a big deal. Like it must be a big deal because I genuinely thought it was a lot more. I'm in that WordPress like back end all the time, and to be like, so it's I just feel like I've read so many of your articles, and I'm like, what? It's only
Yeah, I
200.
also mainly wrote for like Marketing Land, which was like the sister site at the time. So I don't know if all
Okay.
those made it over or not, but Marketing Land, I was like trying to prop that up big. So I think I had a
Okay.
lot.
Okay. All right. Cool. I feel this was a question from a previous section, but I'm going to ask it here anyway. What's one thing about early Google that you genuinely miss?
Um, versus today,
Yeah.
clicks. I mean, like I don't know. Like, I mean,
Really need the
clicks.
clicks, people.
No, I don't know. I think when Google came out, they were awesome. You know what I mean? Like they were
Mm,
like the new kid on the block. They had like little small things. They'd have parties where you could just talk to everybody there. And it was really cool. Like you would have like reps. It wouldn't just change all the time. And they were really trying to like get their footing. They weren't public or anything like that, and they cared. You know what I mean? And they still do. Like Ginny does a great job and everything like that. But there are some reps that are absolutely phenomenal, and then there's some reps where they're more sales based and associated, and you just see like it's really become a lot more corporate, right? And I get it, you have to be, you're a public company, but
yeah.
it's even the small stuff like putting certain taxes and making advertisers pay it, and removing the ability to use credit cards, and things like that. It's just like
Yeah.
you look at it, and they were like so advertiser first at the beginning because they were starting up, and then now it's sort of like you have to use us, and we're gonna squeeze every dime out. And it's that mate, I wouldn't do that if I were in
I feel
charge.
like I would have
But
done
like I
that.
get
Yeah,
it,
I
I get
did
it.
that myself.
If
Yeah.
if you own the Google or the Alphabet stock, I'm sure you're happy with it.
You're right, right. Yeah, it's that whole battle of like, should they be fighting for the customers or like the advertisers or brands, or they should be working for the board members? Because yeah, they're the ones that they need to answer to on a regular basis. So yeah, it's a tricky business position. I don't envy the people that do have to make that decision because it's the person paying your salary that will be like, why are you creating a feature that does not benefit us at all? You've got to answer to them, and yeah, I know it's interesting times. Let's talk about the culture of search and like people hanging out in terms of that kind of thing. What was like search culture in the early days?
Oh,
I mean, I
okay.
know you say
So
you were very shy and everything. I'm sure there were people like the Danny Sullivans you hung out with.
no, I didn't. I sat down at a table with Barry Schwartz at SMX New York. I didn't say a word to him. Nothing.
No.
Not a. I couldn't. I couldn't bring
Greg,
myself to.
I can't imagine that.
100%. So something that's really really funny to me is like back in the day, like all sort of like the S. There, you go to SMXs and there would be like SEO and PPC, right? And all the SEO people were like sort of like they were like like one of those webmaster radio shows was like SEO rock stars and stuff like that, and it's like they were sort of like I don't know. I don't know how to.
Oh
I
god.
wouldn't say cooler, but they were cooler, right? And then you go to the
Yeah.
PPC sessions, everybody's in suits and button-down shirts and everything. You'd be like, "Oh my god, this is so stodgy! Like, what is going on?" And they just like, I don't know. They just sort of were like so buttoned up, like professionally type folks. And I've always thought that that's funny. And I was like, I don't resonate with these people. You know what I mean? And like, I think things have really changed a lot from that. But I think one thing that's really true for both is that there's a lot of really good community within both of those kind of divisions, I would say there, you know. And I'd say that like PPC community, shout out Anu, is really, really coming, like has come a long way and is really,
Yeah.
really strong just in general from
Yeah.
people sharing and, you know,
Yeah.
like bringing people up and everything like that. I think that that's like a huge deal. And, you know, even with like our show Marketing Clock, like that was my biggest thing is like, there are a lot of people out there that I know their stuff and aren't like, might have been like me where you're like too shy or whatever. So it's like,
Yeah.
I just find people out there like just tweeting away random things. I'm like, I know that this Higman guy is in accounts. I know this PPC Greg guy. I don't know who this PPC Greg guy is. It's not me, but I know he knows his stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so
Yeah.
like, I do think that that's the community aspect is really cool. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there, maybe you're listening to the show that
Yeah.
are like worried about it or like hesitant to take that step and sort of put themselves out there. But like everybody is super welcoming and warm. And like, you know, at least for me, I'll report on stories from other agencies. I'll bring anybody on, somebody that does directly the same thing. PPC Kirk, bring them on. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like that's sort of the vibes of it is, at least to me, it feels like, in PPC, let's say that, you know, we want the good people, the good companies, the people that care to do well, because then like
Yeah.
a company will bring them on and be like, hey, this really works. And like, then maybe they go somewhere else, wherever, and they're like, oh, we had a great experience with an agency and we saw this go up. Maybe they'll bring that agency on, maybe they'll bring an RFP, but you know, really can see like the value of it. And it's sort of like, you know, rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, that is something that is really big. I'm not gonna make it like any like political or hit us against that kind of statement here,
No,
but like sometimes it gets me when someone is like, oh yeah, these are the people I follow, and then the people who I know are brilliant are not on that list, and I'm like, really? That's the only person you follow? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do something about that. Like, let's talk about all the people doing something. It's yeah, it's the introverts, the quiet person just going, I just wanted to get the work done. Because and there are some, and I get it. There's some brilliant people who are like, I want to do my job. I know I do it well, and then go home and people are like, oh, anti-social media, and people are like the whole LinkedIn and Twitter. We know how what turned out, how Twitter turned out, kind of thing. I know a lot of people are, you know, the PPC community on Twitter anymore, or it's regular, you know, anymore. And it's just, yeah, I just want to feel like I want to be like the people that I know are brilliant. People are hearing about them, but people are not in this for the fame. People are like just doing their work and going home and paying the bills, I guess. So
yeah. But it's also good to call people out that find
yes,
something or do something or
yes.
trying hard or see stuff. It's like, even if like, again, even when Greg Kohler, aka PPC Greg, he had a pseudonym and whatever, but it's like, all that stuff is good
Yeah,
just to be like, hey, this guy found something instead of being like,
yeah,
oh, I found this. And then at the bottom, like hat tip CC, I don't know. But yeah,
yeah,
I think that's something that's really cool with the community is the majority of it's like building people up and not just all about themselves.
yeah. No, absolutely. I'm now going into talking about like innovation and things that you feel that were amazing, kind of thing. What do you feel like the best innovation in PPC has been in the last 20 years?
The last 20, that's a long time.
Okay,
Say when did AdWords come out? Let's go
oh,
AdWords. It might
AdWords.
might be right there.
That's a bit too on the nose. We want like within AdWords.
Okay. I'll go with smart bidding.
Okay.
I think with smart bidding, the innovation side of things makes a ton of sense for Google, for Microsoft, for anyone, because you are telling somebody like, we will set your spend. We'll figure out what we're going to spend on a term or something like that. But the nice thing is it really works, right? And I think that that's something that's huge just in general for advertisers is to be able to say, I'm looking to hit this certain number, whether it's your target ROAS, whether it's your target CPA, and I am willing to pay this amount, you know? And I think that that's been super helpful. Obviously, there is that sort of, I always think about it like this, like that potential, hey, you are telling your ad platform what to bid for this term.
Yeah.
Your competitor is doing the same. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
that's always in my head, especially after seeing some of the DOJ stuff. But I would say like for the most part, it really allows you to trust a little bit more. And as long as the metrics are there, like it is a huge, huge, huge boon to be able to say, I'm not going in and manually adjusting this specific keyword every single week.
Yeah.
But I would say that's probably number one is really smart bidding, whether it's maximize clicks, TCPA, maximize conversions, or TROAS. And then nothing else out there is smart bidding. Just a disclaimer: maximize clicks is not smart bidding. Maximize target impression or target impression share is not. So I would say that's huge just to be able to remove some of the tedious day-to-day keyword bidding.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we talked a lot longer than I thought we would. But anyway, we'll keep going and then we'll come to some quick fire
Are we
questions.
doing good? Are we doing? I feel like we're doing great.
We're doing great. We've gone
Okay,
up to like about 50 plus minutes
let's go.
already. Well, so I think we've
Buckle
got
up.
another 20 minutes. Like I'm not gonna stop. And I knew I was the one that was like, Greg, we can't do all the questions. Anyway, let's talk about AI. What is the biggest misconception you feel about AI search right now?
AI search.
Mm-hmm.
That you have any say in whether it is the future. You
Mm.
don't have any say. You can whine all you want. It's
Oh.
the future for sure. Like
Mm.
for sure, AI mode is the future for Google. Gemini, all that is the future. Like I think that's people look at it and they're like, well, oh, this is bad. And it's like same thing with what we talked about with exact match going away. It's like, no, this is the future, you know. And if you were to
Yeah.
say to me on the SEO side, what's the biggest change that we've seen? It's AI mode, right? It's not even
Yeah.
AI overviews. AI overviews is just their kind of baby step into AI mode.
Yeah.
But I think people think it's like that traditional Google is still going to be around. Like newsflash, it is not going to be around in 5 years. Like I don't know if people understand that or not, but like
Okay.
that's I think the biggest misconception is that there's still gonna be 10 blue links. Like, bruh, it's gone.
Oh, it's
That's
gone
gone in
in
five
five
years.
years. That's your prediction. Oh,
A
I love
hundred
it.
percent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love
Let's
the way
look.
that at some point the predictions was like, is keyword gonna go away? Now you're literally like, there will be no links
No,
to even see.
no, I mean we need links and things like
Oh
Google
god.
has to make it a little bit more sustainable, and we've seen some more links on the Google side. We've seen some less links on ChatGPT. Like they're gonna make sure that they have to make sure that like the web ecosystem will be sustained. That's the one thing that I don't understand is when they just do all this stuff and they just take away all the traffic, and especially for like publishers, it's like dude, you have to steal this content from somewhere. You're not
Yeah.
making it, Gemini. You're stealing it from somewhere.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have like I feel like it's gonna. Is it gonna be where it was? No. Is it gonna be bottom of the barrel? Hopefully not. I think maybe it'll be, you know, like 25%. I don't know, somewhere. But they have to make sure things are sustainable. We've seen, you know, Microsoft has a protocol of paying some publishers and things like that. Or at least they're involved in it. I don't know if it's their specific one. But no, I mean, I think that's the biggest misconception is that the Google we've known for a long time is going to be the same. It's not.
Yeah. No. No, I think you make a very good point, like it right there, just at the beginning of answering that question as to like the fact that we feel like we have a say. We stumped our feet about exact match. We stumped our feet about BMM. We stumped our feet about auto apply recommendations, and yeah, it's still there. We're still using Google, like it's
Yeah.
whatever the direction, and it's what the ecosystem looks like, and if it works for our clients, like what's the alternative to do
To be
TV
fair,
ads only?
we've stomped our feet twice with Marketing
Okay.
Clock. Both
Okay.
times things got reversed.
Oh,
One was search partners. We put out a huge petition against search partners, and that was that you had to apply up to whatever percentage in order to keep your search partner status. And we
Mm,
put out a big petition. I made a huge stink about it. I made a badge for people that would say that they agree to the badge over search partners, and they would take
I
their clients and their
remember that.
companies first. And that got changed, right? So you
Wow.
didn't have to implement up to that optimization score level, and that got changed. The other one was search terms. So when they got rid of all the search terms, we had made a petition on that. We got some search terms back, and at least we have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that did also get removed, like, reversed. But there's no reversing AI mode. There's
No.
none.
Okay.
There's none.
All right. Okay. Wow. Okay. So yeah, it's a whole big new kettle of fish when we're looking at that in terms of reversing things. What will the next 20 years of search reward? Like what should we be doing now that, will keep you in business, you feel, in the next 20 years?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, and I've talked about it a lot, and I think it's even more so in marketing, right?
Mm.
But I think the biggest thing that people are going to be leaning into in this world, Anu, do you use LinkedIn a lot?
LinkedIn
Yeah. You
every
go in
day.
there?
Every
Do you
day.
know if a post is AI written when you see it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
suck, right? Do you read those? No. No. Right. So when I write stuff, when I do things, I don't use AI. Like I'll just write it, and you'll know. Like, read any
Yeah.
blog post I write, and it's from the insane brain, in my skull here. But I think, like, the biggest thing that's going to be rewarded is authenticity, right?
Mm.
You've got these AI things that are fast and quick and easy, and that the results are good. They're good.
Mm.
People will be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's bad." It's no, no. AI is good.
Mm.
It's good. How do you become great?
Yeah.
What's great? What is
Yeah.
something that can cut through that? You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be the biggest thing, right? Like, I don't think an AI could do marketing a clock. I'm not worried about that,
Yeah.
right? When we look at all these different ad platforms specifically, we are just doing a pitch with a client, and they've got a huge array of different types of conversions, from chat conversions, phone call conversions, quote requests, form fills, also e-commerce, all these different things. Like, being able to use your brain, think through this stuff, and figure out, like, how are we going to accomplish all of these? How can we pull things in? Do we want to use value based? Like, really using your brain and thinking through it is going to be huge. But even to the point of just search in general, and honestly marketing in general, is like, dude, I'm not buying Svedka vodka from that Super Bowl commercial of robots that was made with AI. Like, if anything, I'm probably never going to drink Svedka vodka again in my life, and it might turn me off from drinking altogether. Like, that's
Yeah.
commercial sucked,
It
right?
did.
And I think
Yeah.
it's like, how can you make something that is true? Because people are going to get so burnt out from wasting their precious life reading and listening what a stupid computer says,
Yeah.
right? Like, have a voice, talk, like,
Yeah.
be something,
Help
stand for
people.
something.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, and it doesn't sound like fantastic, but guess what? I'd rather have a blog post that people want to read. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That can then maybe get me followers on YouTube and LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever, and build an audience that way that wants to hear you, wants to hear your brand, wants to hear whatever you have to say, rather than being like, listen to this AI post with, that
Yeah.
I GPT wrote.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very nervous of the people who I feel what I'd call personally the lazy folks who are just like, yeah, I just want to do this quick. And I'm like, we want to get to know each other again. I feel like we need to bring it back. I want to read posts from you, and yeah, I won't get your full life story from your posts, but I want to feel like in those from your posts, I'm like, oh, I know what Greg is thinking. Like, I like, that post is like, that's what Greg's thinking, or that's what Annie's thinking, or that's what something. I think that's really, and and just even especially like even like in the comments, when you get into the comments, and if sometimes the AI in the comments is what pisses me off the most. People want to feel like, oh, they're trying to boost their engagement score from LinkedIn, so they'll just ask AI to like, oh, that was a great post, what do you think about X? And you're like, what was that nonsense? As a comment, I delete that now. I shouldn't, because it annoys me, but it's like, it's the conversations need to be had. It's not just about writing blogs and articles. I think people need to think about, try to have a conversation with your blog. If that was a real life conversation, and okay, let's say that blog post is someone just stopping to listen to you for like 5 minutes, and they're going to respond, and it's, they're going to respond back with a rebuttal. What would you write? I think that's what we should really think about. And I think people really still want that. I don't know, people are thinking that we're all, even the introverts want that. They want to read on something and feel like they've connected with somebody and they know someone a little bit better, I think, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Now, going back to our beloved search engine land, in terms of like what they've done really well, what was the most important area of search coverage you feel that search engine land documented?
Um, well, like, love Ginny's writing, and
Okay.
I'd say like, I mean, I love yours as well, Anu. But
Ah,
I think like it's really funny knowing that Ginny's at Google now, because a lot of
okay.
the articles were so critical, and it would be like, I
Yeah.
remember one, it was about new location settings. You should Google Ginny Marvin location settings, Google ads. She's like, and now the location settings are moved out of the campaign settings because that makes sense. It was something to that effect. Um, so like, again, to that point of authenticity, like that was something that I,
Genius.
was very fond of and would
Yeah.
love to see. Obviously it's not going to happen, but I thought that was always really fun to hear, like, sort of
Yeah.
her take on that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that. If search engine land didn't exist, what would the industry be missing?
I think like the thing I'm most proud about being part of Search Engine Land and SMX and everything like that is really like that integrity of getting things right. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like there are always things that could be reported, and there's like, wow, like I feel like it's something that is not only like true, it's like everything you need to know you have there, which is awesome. And then the addition of columns that had started
mm,
probably back in like, I don't know, like 2009 or 10 or something like that. I think that's something that is huge, because it turned it just from like just like a news right here, updates, and also like tactical help and support. So I think that their industry would be missing a huge portion, like not only of like the news, and you could go to Search Engine Roundtable, shout out here, but
hey.
like it's also, that's really like news, you know what I mean? So I think they did a great job of blending top quality news along with really helpful tactical ways that you can get better, and at the same time like helping bring people up, right? Like I think that's something that's been really nice to see, is like you might start and just you're reaching out like, hey, I got ideas for a column, I've got a bunch of them, and then you can kind of make your way and get a little bit more notoriety, and hopefully it helps you along the way with where your career, or pitching a client or something like that. We have people here that, like, Maggie's like on our team is writing e-commerce for Search Engine Land, and it's great, and it's something we could be like, hey, yeah, this is Maggie, and if you want to know her thoughts on feeds, go check this out over here. So I think like the answer is like something that's a trustworthy news source,
Yeah.
and also like that tactical stuff that you can trust, or has been vetted, right? And I think that those two things make it special. And obviously, I'm a big sucker for SMX.
Yeah, yeah. Can't wait for the one in June. Although this might be coming out after June.
Well,
They'll
if
edit this
it
part out.
came out after, the show was great.
It was great. It was the best we've ever done. Um, if you could go back 10 to 15 years, what would you tell your younger self?
To have more confidence, probably, I would say. I think that that's tough, but I guess that's not really a marketing answer. That's more like we can just sit, or you're my therapist answer.
Sure.
So I guess I would say, like, don't hesitate on the stuff that you're looking to do, right? Like if
Mm,
you have a thought for a blog, or a thought for a podcast, or a thought for something, or hey, I want to get into the industry. dude, reach out. I know we'll have you on the show. Reach out, try to
100%.
get a column going. You don't need to spend $1 billion on a logo for a podcast. Just start doing
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? I think that's something that a lot of people, it's like paralysis by analysis type thing.
Yeah.
But really, like, just do it. And a lot of stuff fails. I can't tell you how many things I've done that have failed. And it's like each time, I don't think of them all as failures because you learn something and you're like, oh, that thing didn't work, right? Like, Search Arazi didn't work, but whatever. Like, let's try the next thing. So I would just say, like, do it. And if it's something that's marketing related in the industry, like, talk to Anu, talk to me. Like, everybody's great. Like, everybody's here to help pump each other up, and we're all in it for each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. Someone said I read this somewhere in like in a social media post, and someone was like, ambition is a trauma response. And sometimes I'm like, is that what I'm doing a lot? And maybe so it's like on one hand, yes, go and do the thing, but also look after yourself. Don't necessarily do everything. It's sometimes another advice
I'm the
I
wrong
give
guy.
to
I'm
people.
the wrong guy to give advice on that. I got way too much going on.
You do a lot as well. Do you feel yours is a trauma response? Let's have a therapy session.
I think it's kind of like proving myself again.
Mm.
I have a lot of self doubt and things like that, and I think it's usually like just proving that wrong. Like I like proving myself wrong because I've got a internal monologue sometimes that tells me I can't do stuff. So I just love actually doing it.
That does sound like trauma response, darling.
Maybe I don't know. I don't have time for a therapist, so like I don't know.
I love it. I love it. What are you most proud of
In life,
in your digital market, in your career,
oh,
your
digital
marketing
marketer.
career? Like,
This one's an easy one. Easiest question you've asked. I think the thing I'm most proud of is took a leap, started an agency. All been great. Like there's trials and tribulations and things like that. But my number one thing is like we're in a weird area in Western New York where there's not like a ton of big agencies or a ton of talent and things like that.
mm,
So we've really like invested in our people a lot,
yeah,
and we've brought people in that have had like no experience in digital marketing, like Shep on our show, and really worked a lot on training people up, helping people get like the right start in the industry,
yeah.
really learning the craft and really taking a lot of pride in their work. And it's just like every day, every week, like I'm gonna cry. Like you just see people improve and get better, and like it's absolutely like why I do this.
Oh, virtual hug. Oh, I see right now.
Thanks. I'm like actually tearing up.
Oh,
So
bless. Oh, you're definitely an inspiration to all of us in terms of just how you're just very open and and clearly just very invested in your people and you guys do graduate programs as well, don't you?
no,
Oh,
no. I
okay.
mean, we just bring people on that we
We
like.
just bring it. Yeah. Okay.
You can find somebody that can work. It's like wow, we can
Yeah.
train you, kind of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. It's really amazing to have leaders like that in our industry. Okay, we're coming to that closing period now. But quick rapid fire questions. So literally it'll be like one update, one tool, one tactic kind of thing.
hit me.
So yeah, just first answer that comes to mind. One update that changed everything.
PPC or SEO?
PPC, of course. What do you mean?
Performance Max. I don't know. It's a big. Oh, smart bidding. Can I say smart bidding? Smart bidding.
Let's ask that question again. What updates that changed everything?
Smart bidding.
Thank you. One tool you couldn't live without.
GA4.
GA4, really?
I need to see data.
Okay.
If I
All
didn't
right.
have that, I would have no data. I don't know what I'd do.
Are you finding GA4 easy? Easy that
No, it's not easy. But I want data. Like I need data.
is the data making sense?
Yeah, we have a data team that makes it make sense.
Fantastic. That's what you need. Don't just approach GA4 anyhow. Use a data team for sure.
All right, you're making me change my answer. Google Ads Editor makes it. No, we're going GA4. I'm just trolling you right now.
You really are. You really are. Why? What did I do to deserve this? Actually, I know. So don't answer that question. One tactic that died.
Skags.
Yes, I was waiting for want you to bring up Skags. I thought you in terms of like when you like all raging about like tactics that you didn't like. I was like, Skags? Is he gonna mention Skags? I'm
It
going
doesn't
to
seem
mention.
like a lightning round.
Yeah, no, it's whatever we want to make it made.
All right.
Like, can you control anything I do? Um, one myth you hate.
The people don't click on ads.
Yeah, people do for sure. One prediction you got wrong.
It's hard when you're so good, I know.
Look at me. I should have more confidence. Is that what you were going to tell your younger self again? Yeah, you did. You did.
I'm just joking. I'm just having fun.
Oh god.
I think I thought AI overviews would be gone quicker and we'd be more AI mode, but I don't know if that's.
Okay. Well, yeah. Looks like we're still.
I got a better one in the lightning round. Don't use broad match. That was my prediction, and now I use broad match all the time.
Right? Yeah. Your prediction would be.
My
like
prediction was I would never use broad match again, and I did. I didn't.
Okay. All right. One prediction you got right.
That automation is here to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing Google never admits.
That smart bidding is good for advertisers, but it's also good for the bottom line, and that's why.
Right. Right. Interesting. One thing PPCers, like so PPC folks, never admit.
All PPCers. Okay, I'm gonna go with for this that they never admit. That landing pages are as important, or just as they're equally as important as what you're doing in your ad platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I absolutely agree. I mean, what do you mean that they don't admit it? Like, people are always trying to like, you need to improve your conversion rate. Everyone talks about improving the conversion rates.
I'm just trying not to give the same answers as like the other ones.
You didn't expect me to dig
Okay,
deep.
all right, here we go. It's lightning round. The Performance Max now is actually good with more controls.
Sorry, what? What was that? That's your answer. That's your new
That's
answer.
what people won't admit. The Performance Max is good with the additional controls we have now, because it is.
Okay. All right. Okay.
In certain scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna dig deeper on that one because
The lightning round, you can't.
yeah, for Brad and Ginny, I dug deep. They must have gone, what are you doing? Thank you so much, Greg. I've not laughed as much as in the other interviews as I've had on this one. I thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Me too. This is great. I came unprepared, and I'm very glad I did. You get the real spit here.
Real Greg, the non-AI Greg. He's real, folks. He's absolutely real. But yeah, happy birthday to Search Engine Land for 20 years. Hopefully we'll be here for another 20 years, AI mode or no AI mode, automation or no automation. And yeah, hope you guys still continue to follow us, and we'll keep on writing to the best of our ability.
Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for everything you do for the community. And shout out to Search Engine Land for being huge impact to my career and for many, 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 many others in the industry. Sincere thanks.
Absolutely. Cheers, guys.